We begin this morning with Utah GOP Chair Derek Brown. He joins us from the ABC4 Backyard Studio to preview the state convention coming up on Saturday. Derek, great to be with you. Thanks so much for making time for us.
Thanks, Glenn. Good to be here with you.
Hey, let's get right into it. A virtual convention. We haven't done anything like this. Talk about how this is all going to work.
Well, right now the candidates are spending time reaching out to delegates. There's 4,000 state delegates all across the state, and candidates are using all sorts of new and sort of creative avenues of reaching out to those delegates. And so what they'll do is they'll reach out, they'll do kind of what they always do, is get in touch with them, get as much information out as they can, facilitate back and forth, and then they're also currently preparing a speech. So it's a speech not unlike what they would give at an actual in-person convention. And this week on Wednesday, we will release all of those speeches at the same time. Thursday morning, the voting will begin, and it will go for a period of a couple of days. And it'll give delegates all over the state a chance to sort of do their homework, get to know these candidates, and then make a decision.
Okay, so are you still going with ranked choice voting? Is that how this is going to be done? Okay, explain how that's all going to work. You said on Thursday they'll start voting. So how will that go round by round?
Well, generally what we do is we'll have a round of voting, and then if you have more than two candidates, the lowest candidate will drop off. They go back, they give speeches again really quickly, and then they vote again, and then the lowest candidate drops off over and over. In ranked choice voting, what we're doing is simply having everyone vote for their preference. You know, there are 7 candidates running for governor. They'll rank them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And it'll work essentially like multiple rounds of balloting. And so our rules allow us to do this.
So they will vote one time, rank all of them 7, 1 through 7, and then it'll just go through the rounds from there.
Exactly.
Okay, so that'll start Thursday. So what's happening on Saturday?
Well, Saturday will be the conclusion of the voting, and then we'll take all the information, all the votes that have been cast. We'll know who's voted. The voting will take place online through a secure online system. And then at 5 o'clock, the voting ends, and we'll announce the vote shortly thereafter.
Okay, sounds good. Let's talk a little bit about moving forward versus postponing. From the very beginning, you were very adamant about this process needs to go on as scheduled. Why is that when we had to do away with caucuses, meaning candidates did not get a chance to go through the caucus process and secure some of their own delegates? Why was it important to you to continue to move forward on schedule?
Well, first of all, the idea of candidates not getting a chance to secure their own delegates, so to speak, I think that's a benefit. I mean, this is the first time we've ever had a system where candidates haven't sort of gone out and recruited their own delegates. So we have this fresh batch of delegates essentially without a bias one way or the other. And so a lot of candidates have actually said to me, look, it's like a clean slate, and we can make our case to them. And the reason we didn't want to postpone it is because we've got all these different deadlines in both state and federal law, and postponing it would sort of interact in a way that wasn't healthy, and it would throw all of it off. And so it made sense in light of the fact that we've got to certify to the Lieutenant Governor's office 2 days after the convention who our candidates are.
Okay, let's dig a little deeper into that, Derek, if you will. Who are these delegates? When were they elected, and who are they?
So every 2 years, we have delegates that are elected, and they serve until they are replaced. And so because we didn't have a caucus this year, as we traditionally do, the delegates that were elected in 2018 continue to serve, and those are the delegates that will serve as the 4,000 state delegates for the election.
Okay, so those would have been delegates during the Mitt Romney Senate run. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and also the ones that elected you as GOP chair.
Yes, same ones.
Okay, got it. Let's talk a little bit about this debate. There's an ongoing debate when it comes to the relevance of convention. Some people take exception to the fact that 4,000 delegates are making decisions for hundreds of thousands of Republicans. Your thoughts on that?
Well, what's really interesting is where we are right now, where it's harder to reach out than it was before. I mean, I think that's actually a benefit for the system, because rather than saying, hey, you're going to reach out to 700,000 registered Republicans who are voters, your job as a candidate is to reach out to 4,000 delegates who vote. And so I think the system actually works really well in the sense that it was designed so a smaller group can really figure out who these candidates are and engage with them. Because it's one thing to say, look, engage with 4,000 delegates around the state. It's another thing to say, Well, that doesn't work as well as we'd like it to, so engage instead with 700,000. So I think the system works, and it's working exactly as it was designed.
Do you believe delegates, though, represent the will of the primary voter? We can go back the last 4 years or so and come up with examples of where the convention result was drastically different from the primary vote. One that I'll mention right off the top is Representative John Curtis. He's now representing the 3rd District. In recent polls, he was one of the top 2 most popular members of the delegation, and a couple of years ago in the special election, he couldn't even get out of convention.
Well, and I think that the delegates, from what I can see in polling, seem to be, I mean, they seem to like what he has done as far as his voting record. And I think if you look overall at the results, not just at 1 or 2 super high-profile races, but look across the board, the state House members, state Senate members who were elected, as well as the high-profile ones, I think the reality is they do represent them if you look at the overall results. There will always be exceptions here and there, and some of the ones are the ones that you have explained, but you can account those exceptions as definitely the anomaly and not the standard.
Okay, yeah, I had a couple other examples I would mention would be Governor Herbert back in 2016, Senator Romney, both of them losing at convention, but to your point, they were at least sent to a primary, even though the results were so drastically
And they still
different.
won. And they still won. So in short, the system worked, and it continues to work.
Okay. Let's talk about sticking with the relevance of convention. In the governor's race, we already have 3 candidates who have made the ballot through the petition route. That would be Thomas Wright, Lieutenant Governor Spencer Cox, and former Governor John Huntsman Jr. Huntsman and Cox, so far in polling, have been the ones that have been the front runners in this race. So what role does convention play when we're talking about those factors in this race for governor?
Well, I think it still gives these 4,000 delegates who represent every area of the state a chance to really get to know these candidates. And even though they are going to be on the primary ballot, there's still a convention process where these delegates are on a daily basis getting to know them. And what it does, I think more than anything, is it gives us a chance to look at these candidates and see how do they solve problems. I mean, this is, as an elected official, what you really do on a daily basis is you just solve problems. And we get a chance now, you know, front and center, to take a front center seat watching these candidates solve a problem that truly none of them ever envisioned when they filed to run for office just a couple of months ago. And so I think that vetting process will help overall. It'll give the delegates a feel for who these people are, how do they solve problems, and how do they respond to things that they didn't anticipate.
Yeah, no doubt about that. COVID-19 changed everything in the middle of the game.
It did.
Derek, we really appreciate your time. That was an excellent conversation. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks.